So not too long ago, I was actually at the Gold Coast Convention Centre, and I went to that Supanova thing, and I only got the day pass. The pink ones were the day passes, and the green ones were weekend passes, like the armbands. And I actually never been to a Supanova before, and I just went with a few members of our crew, and it was awful. It wasn't the place itself, but the people at the convention. Supanova itself, it was just another stark reminder that people in general are quite horrid. See, I was actually thinking that perhaps because we like the same things, they would treat you less horribly. But of course I was. But of course they proved me wrong, didn't they? So at the convention, it was a sea of people, and if you're traveling as a group, as we were, you can't walk side by side. You have to walk single file, and in order to get in order to get through the crowds, you have to walk single file through them. And we came up to one entryway where there was a security guard stationed, and he waves our group through. Yeah, go on in. And then out of the blue, he comes up behind me. He comes up beside me, and he grabs my arm, right? And so I'm thinking, okay, there's some sort of misunderstanding here. I'll just explain the situation, and then he'll understand, and it'll all be fine. We can quickly move on and catch up to our friends, because half our group was by the security guard, and half were already walking off and they haven't noticed the incident. So I tell him the situation. I tell him, oh, our friends are walking off that way. I didn't tell him, we're with the people you just waved in, and you stopped me, and now our group is separated. He goes, that's part's implicit, because you could see that our friends were moving off without us. And now you'd think the average person would apologize and then explain to you, oh, I didn't realize you were in the same group. But guess what he says to me? He goes, oh, so you don't come and talk to me, you just barge through. Have some respect. So the guy that just assaulted me basically then makes up some bullshit, then turns around and says that I should be more respectful. Isn't that amazing? And talking to a friend about it, she said to me, well, he's not allowed to grab you like that. Yeah, no kidding. I actually went through the training to be a security guard. They actually explicitly state you're not allowed to go up to them and grab them, that you have to do it. You have to stop them in a verbal way. And if people are assaulted, these guys, security guards, etc., they're supposed to be the first on the scene. They're supposed to be the first responders. They're not supposed to be the first on the scene to do the assaulting. And there's just no point going to the police about it, because in the official report, it'll say, oh, I lightly touched his elbow to get his attention, or some bullshit like that. And the first thing he said to me, he said, oh, so you don't come and talk to me, and this is after he waves us through. Why on earth would, if your group's moving off in one direction, why on earth would you go, after getting waved through, why on earth would you go back and talk to the security guard that waved you through? That's just nonsense. It'll also say on the report that I tried to barge through. My foot tried to barge through. So basically, I paid $40 just to get assaulted and told, I have no respect by some monstrous piece of shit. And that was the takeaway I got from my first and last Supanova. And that was the only interaction I had with the good people of Supanova. But that's not the worst of it, far from it. First, for these sorts of interactions, for when things go wrong like this, you have people that will blame it on us. They'll say things like, "Oh, it's because they don't have very good social skills. Oh, it's because they have a problem with interacting with others." In fact, some idiot did a TED talk not too long ago, but managed to take it one step further. Not only did she blame any social problems on AS people, she also had the genius idea of hey, maybe if they had something like the Google glasses, they could get expert advice from an instructor and finally pick up a girlfriend at a bar or something like that. And no, I'm not kidding. And these situations happening are simply not our fault. It's not a breakdown on our end. It's not a problem that we ourselves have. The last meeting I went to, there were no neurotypicals at that meeting, and we were all regular chatterboxes. And people will tell you, "Oh, what? That can't be right." I'll tell you why that is. Because from an early age, right, it's ingrained into you that social interactions are an awful experience, at least with neurotypicals. And that's because, well, they in fact are an awful experience. And that's why you get, AS people walking on eggshells, why they seem, quiet and reserved around neurotypicals. It's because you're expecting things to go bad, and for people to treat you like shit, because that's what usually happens. It's absolutely nothing to do with our conversation skills or our supposed lack thereof. And at the convention, there were actually these girls walking about with these short brown jacket things and brown boots, making them sort of look like a pilot from the 40s or 50s, like brown and white flight suits, I suppose it could be described as. And they had these white insignias on the back of the brown jackets, like in a circular chevron thing, and it was white feathers or laurels or wings or something like that. And I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was from, or from what they were cosplaying. And I kept wondering, oh, what is that from? And then someone I was going with actually suggested to me, "Oh, hey, why don't you just go over and ask them?" Do you think I went over and asked them? Oh, fuck no. Because exactly what's going to happen should you go over and talk to them, to the point where you can predict what's going to happen. And there'll also be people that will write off our experiences as, "Oh, you just found a bunch of bad apples." I can tell you straight away that people will look at the title of this video and they'll tell me, "Well, it's not the people of Supanova that are horrid. It was just that one security guard." Well, no, it's, if you say that the people of Supanova are horrid, that is accurate. That's because the vast majority of people are in fact horrid. And that's not an unfair characterization of people to state that. Out of all your interactions with people, if the vast majority of those people do in fact treat you in an appalling manner, then it is fair to conclude that the vast majority of people are horrid.
But autism is not a single condition. It's actually a spectrum of disorders. of autism spectrum disorder. The autism spectrum disorder, when we compare it to other conditions that we're familiar with, things like cancer, heart disease, diabetes, in fact, genetics plays a much larger role in autism than it does in any of these other conditions. One of the things that concerns us is whether or not there really is an epidemic of autism. These days, 1 in 88 children will be diagnosed with autism. And the question is, why does this graph look this way? Has that number been increasing dramatically and affects behavior? Such a broad spectrum in terms of its effects. He doesn't make eye contact. Eye contact and eye tracking to identify an infant at risk, but not again socially connecting, increase the risk of autism that can also cause autism. Genes that can cause autism, cause of autism, what that causes, the risk for autism, the autism, that risk for autism, genes causing autism, genes causing autism, caused autism, cause autism. To even things like Google Glass. You could imagine, for instance, Gabriel with his social awkwardness might be able to wear Google Glass with an earpiece in his ear and have a coach be able to help him, be able to help think about conversations, conversation starters, being able to even perhaps one day invite a girl out on a date, to be able to make the lives of individuals with autism so much better and so much richer. Thank you.
And I didn't tell him, oh, we're with the people you waved through. You stopped me, and now our group is separated. Yeah, that fucking hell. Are you fucking kidding me? Just wait until it fucking finishes. Piece of shit.